Hey everyone, we are the NFTrade team. This is Levi, our CEO, Shahaf Antwarg, CTO. I'm Harrison Seletsky, our head of communication. And today we're going to talk about minting, how to create an optimal mint for different projects, both from a developer perspective and then what to look for as a creator and a collector. So there's a lot of mistakes going on in the NFT space. This translates directly to loss of value, both from the creator side and the collector side, in both short and long term. NFTs are being created with many centralized aspects, or if they're created in a decentralized way, they're still prone to manipulation by the deployers. So a lot of end users don't understand this. They don't fully know the actual details of the NFT data and what's being created, what's being stored. So we're here to bring some insight into that and make everyone more aware. So this can be affected throughout the entire process, starting from minting, but it also can affect the actual exchanging of NFTs as well as how they're handled on marketplaces. So even when an NFT is set up in an ideal way, many creators and users don't know about the listing of the NFTs, if it's being listed on a centralized exchange or an on-chain exchange. What this means is that they're essentially giving up custody over their asset and removing a lot of aspects of decentralization from what's supposed to be a decentralized asset class. So from ideation to creation, there's a proper way to launch NFTs and an improper way. And without the knowledge on best practices, all stakeholders involved can suffer.
Just want to emphasize on that point of the on-chain, off-chain, just to make it clearer. There are exchanges that take your NFT, fully take it from your wallet and puts it in their contract, while other exchanges just ask for a permission to transfer it when the transaction is actually being fulfilled from the other side. Okay, when a marketplace will take your NFT, you won't be able to use it at all. So if you list it, it's not yours anymore. While on other marketplaces, you still own the NFT and you just listed it. If it's not sold, you still own it, okay? Yeah.
So the do's and don'ts of NFTs. Obviously, the more decentralized, the better, but this is not always a possibility depending on the actual utility of an NFT. Of course, for profile picture collections, it's much easier to create a decentralized one, but when there's utility or gaming aspects involved, there's not always that option. So from the collector and owner standpoint, some aspects you want to look out for are decentralized data storage. This is something like IPFS, Arweave, or Filecoin. Using these storage solutions is much safer long-term and doesn't have that centralized custody. There's also, you want to make sure that it's immutable and decentralized in terms of who can actually update and change the aspects of the NFTs. So ideally, no one should be able to change the information within a collection, but if this is necessary, then an option like multi-sig integration to decentralize control and decision-making makes it much easier to keep the power out of one hand, maybe a malicious party or someone that doesn't have the best interest, and allows more general community control. You also want to see doxed creators, whether this is public or pseudonymous with a public persona, someone that's behind the NFT that can put their name behind it and isn't afraid to actually be involved publicly. Beyond that, project longevity, goals, and a roadmap, both from developmental and technical perspectives, are important, especially now when NFT collections are a dime a dozen. You want to make sure that what you're getting involved in has a long-term perspective and is creating for the future. So there are some trade-offs in terms of centralization and decentralization. With the current infrastructure of NFTs, especially with the growing GameFi, gaming finance, and play-to-earn areas, there are necessary trade-offs for decentralization to introduce all the required features. We like to call this the Pokemon problem. So if an NFT character, item, or piece of land needs to level up, be updated, change its characteristics, there are some underlying properties that will need to be changed. So this can't always be done if the data is minted on-chain or if it's fully decentralized. So to make these changes, it sometimes requires a centralized authority or a combination of people that have the ability to update what's actually underlying within these assets. So there are some tools to help you understand the different aspects of decentralization. If you're a developer or have coding experience, it makes it much easier to do a deep dive, see the actual base of what's being encoded, and understand it that way. But even if you're just a collector or an owner, there are some ready-made solutions. One option is checkmynft.com. This does a basic overview on the strength of the asset, how it's displayed, who's in control of it, and so forth. Currently, this is only available on Ethereum, but as EVM chains go, it can move very easily to other chains as well, and it gives you an idea of the type of aspects you want to look out for. So there is a proper way to incorporate and save metadata when you're thinking about decentralization. There's two main levels that decentralization is divided by. The first is where you store the metadata. The second is what the owner of the contract is allowed to do and their abilities. So if the owner has the opportunity to change what's underlying in the asset, it's not as decentralized as it can be. This is even true if the metadata is stored in a decentralized way. So these two factors help define the decentralization of a specific collection and are two things that you should always be looking out for. So the most decentralized collection would have all of the data stored on-chain with no singular owner who can change that metadata. But then the problem arises, what if something goes wrong? What if something needs to be updated? So the goal of the collection should be to limit the amount of control of the deployers without actually compromising the integrity of the specific project. So here's a basic example of decentralization. Something to look out for from the coding perspective, as well as if you're a general collector, something you might want to look into. So what you're seeing is a basic line of code. It's talking about the base URI, which is essentially the first layer of the folder. And then underneath, each individual JSON of each token, which are the individual tokens within the collection, are displayed. So the token URI is the base URI and the token ID. So this defines each individual's token's information. So this example is showing the revealing of the NFT data, specifically the images. So this is using a Boolean, which is a binary coding option. It only lets you have two choices. This can be yes, no, true or false. And once this is defined, it can't be changed. So this is a very safe and secure way to understand the possibilities within a collection. So once the base URI has been revealed, the Boolean will not allow for it to be re-revealed because the reveal has already been confirmed as true. So the function can no longer be called and it can't be adjusted further. So once this function is called, because of the way the contract has been deployed, it's an optimal way to secure that decentralization and can give users assurance that they can trust the deployer and that they won't be able to change the actual underlying infrastructure of the NFT, whether that be changing the metadata further, changing the actual image that it's pointing to, and so forth. So we're going to go back to decentralized data storage. Like I already mentioned, if you can upload the data on-chain, this is the most decentralized way to store the data, but this is not always an option and can also be very costly to creators depending on the chain that it's deployed to. So
you guys know the on-chain collections, some of them? Anyone knows one of them? Which one? Train runners? Chain runners. I think I've heard of this one. Yeah. Anyone else? Loot.
Loot, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but loot is very simple. But yeah, we're starting to see more and more really good art being uploaded onto the chain, which it's really hard to do. It takes a very, very talented graphic designer to be able to create such nice art in such little data. But yeah.
Yeah, as you were saying, if you do want to store data on-chain, there is the file capacity, which makes it harder to have that very high-quality art. That's why we're seeing a lot of these pixelated collections being some of the first to upload their data on-chain, as it cannot contain too much data, or it'll mess up the underlying structure. So this can be a major factor when determining if a collection should be pixelated, because if you want to upload it on-chain, it generally needs to require less data. So if you're not uploading the collection on-chain, you want to use a decentralized storage option. IPFS, Arweave, Filecoin, these are some of the best ways to store your files. And you don't have to worry about the long-term shutdown or compromises from any centralized server. You also always want to look for the JSON, which is the data compromising the NFT, to be open and readable without the ability for manipulation from a single party. So if the data isn't handled properly in this manner, then a developer has the possibility to compromise a collection. One example we're showing is the Ryu collection. It's an Avalanche-based collection, and they actually had one of their contracted developers go rogue, and he ended up changing where the NFT was pointing to, changing the images of them, and trying to resell them. So you can see, even from an experienced team, even from experienced deployers, if they don't fully understand where the data is going and who controls it, there's definitely possibilities of manipulation that can hurt the entire brand immediately, as well as all of the collectors. So we were talking more from a technical perspective, but if you're introductory or don't know how to code, there are great ways to still be able to create a safe and secure NFT without coding experience. There are a couple different options, more being built every day. So you want to understand the differences and how you're actually creating the NFT. So some things you want to avoid are creating NFT collections that are deployed to a shared contract. This is how OpenSea handles it with a lot of their new artists, their new collection. And it doesn't actually give the artist or creator true ownership or the creation rights in any meaningful way. There's also lazy minting, which has a lot of popularity because at the time of mint, you're not actually paying, but the NFTs aren't created until the point of sale. So this also leaves room for potential manipulation. You also want to look for centralized storage. You want to make sure that the data is stored in a decentralized way. And then you also want to understand the custody of the NFT. It should be going to the user's wallet or the creator's wallet, and you want to make sure that it's not being stored by some third-party smart contract. So we've created a base solution for this. We call it drag and drop decentralization, where we're essentially the middleman, kind of like a developer that you can use as a service. Right now, you can only do this with singular NFTs. You can create multiple within the same collection. We do have batch minting coming soon, where this will be a much more seamless process.
Basically, when you create an NFT on NFTrade, you're the sole owner of the contract. We have no actual way to do anything with it. This is not the same with other marketplaces. When you create the NFT, they still have the power to change it, manipulate it, and do whatever they want with it. You're just using us as if you would use, what's the name of this program you deploy contracts with?
Truffle.
Truffle. It's just like using Truffle, putting your own contract. You'd be doing that through our web app.
Yeah, we never have custody, we never have control. We're just providing the structure for you to be able to mint it on your own. So how to do this on NFTrade? First thing you go to is our website. You go to our create panel, and then this will bring up our dashboard. So first you can start inputting the actual individual information. This is the image, the description, the name of the NFT. You can add properties such as color. If it's a gaming item, you can add different characteristics depending on strength, weaknesses for items, and so forth. So this is where you would input all of your information, just like you would for any creation process. The next step is deciding on the collection contract address. So this is where the ownership comes in. Your wallet is the actual deployer of the NFT. So there's no shared contract, there's no middleman. It's directly from your wallet to the deploying address where the creation takes place. So you can decide the name of the collection contract as well as the symbol of how it'll show up on a blockchain explorer. So once you create this collection, you'll now be able to upload additional NFTs to that collection, or you can create additional collection addresses to have multiple NFT collections managed by the same singular wallet. So from here, you can start minting the actual NFTs. You can see that a new collection was minted by your wallet as the deployer. So the NFTrade, we're essentially acting as the developer to facilitate this creation, We're not storing anything. We're not controlling anything. We're just providing our service as a solution for users to be able to create it seamlessly.
It's also worth to mention that on the MetaMask transaction, you can actually see that it's a contract deployment, and you are communicating to a new contract. So we have nothing to do with it. It's just a service.
Yeah, all of the contracts are fully controlled by the wallet that's doing the deployment. So the final step is finalizing the details and minting. Once the NFT is being created from the collection contract address minted by you, you have full control as the developer without having to do any development or coding experience on your end. So it's a drag and drop solution that creates it in the most decentralized way as possible. And you can see when you're creating the NFT on the MetaMask wallet address, the actual receiving address is the same collection that was recently created by you. So fully controlled from beginning to end by the collection deployer. And here's the final product. You can see everything is stated as you created it, the name of the collection, the attributes, the photo, and you as the wallet holder have full control over it. There's no intermediary, there's no secondary service that's controlling or deciding how it's going to be changed in the future. It's all based on the wallet holder and their decisions.
Is there an actual yacht coming or what?
We'll talk about it after.
Okay. I wasn't aware. I want to say a word about batch collections, collections that people create 10,000 of or so, and they are trying to find a solution to upload all of them. We will have that option to upload multiple NFTs, but at the same time, those of you who are creating collections and want them to be mintable, you cannot mint them first. You have to use a developer or develop it yourselves to be able to mint it on some sort of a website that you own. And of course, the reveal is a very important part because people actually, want to be, they like that part of reveal. So I've seen a lot of people who have uploaded the full collection and did not realize why no one's buying their NFTs. So this does not replace the need for developer if you're doing a huge collection.
So now that you've created your collection or you've created your NFT, now what? So your collection has been created using best practices, but there's still ways you can optimize it, especially concerning your launch or secondary trading. Like Ori was saying, hiding the rarity of the reveal is very important, especially when you want to wait until everything is fully minted. You want to make sure that data is hidden so that people can't understand where the rare NFTs hide within the collection. This is only applicable to batch minted collections, but it's something very important to understand and can be a make or break point of a specific collection launch. So by doing it this way, you make sure that no users can take advantage behind the scene and snipe the best ones. You also want to make sure you're listing on an off-chain marketplace. This is revolving specifically around custody. Users should have as much custody over their assets as possible. There's a famous idiom in crypto, not your keys, not your coins. So if you don't have control over your asset, if you give it up to a third-party exchange or a smart contract, they then have full control over the asset. One thing where this really comes into play is with gaming items or items, NFT items that earn tokens. When you list them on an on-chain marketplace, those intermediary smart contracts are the ones earning those tokens, not the actual user.
And we've also seen what happened with Bored Apes that were taken as with a flash loan. The ape tokens that they had were redeemed, were claimed, and they were returned in the same transaction. And the guy made a few millions on that nice transaction he did with, so that's why you don't stake your ape. You just keep it in your wallet.
Yeah, so when listing on an off-chain marketplace, you have full control over the asset until the point of sale. This is always the absolute safest way and should be a high priority for anyone creating or listing an NFT. Thank you so much for coming and for joining us. I think we have a little bit of time. If anyone has any questions, you can also find us. We'll be around. And then services at NFtrade.com for any questions afterwards.
Yeah.
We have to get the mic around, so once you have the mic, you can ask questions.
Hello, thank you. What is the image store in an IPFS, and how do you handle the replication of that IPFS? Is managed by you, or? I mean, you have the contract is decentralized because you give the private case, but there is one off-chain part, which is the image or the video or whatever, and it should be in IPFS or in some of the systems. I don't know which one do you use.
When you create on NFTrade,
Yeah.
we use an IPFS service. They are all very similar. Like which one do we use specifically?
Doesn't matter. IPFS,
Doesn't matter.
it's
They
IPFS.
all connect. So yeah, we put the image or any data that you upload on IPFS, and you create the contract, not us.
Yeah, but I mean, how you are sure that IPFS will be around for long term? I mean, do we pay you for keeping that update?
No.
That's the idea behind IPFS.
Yeah, but
It's like the centralized servers that pinning, like you're pinning you get a CID and you're pinning the image or you get like a string, and as the time passes, more and more servers will actually fetch that image. So when you go to one of the servers, IPFS.io or Infura or NFTrade IPFS service or any of them, they will get the image once it was already uploaded. So it won't. That's the idea behind
There
IPFS.
is not all the IPFS are connected.
yeah, that's the point. I
Yeah.
mean, which is the motivation for someone to ping your IPFS image?
Yeah.
You know, there are services you pay them to be sure that someone will ping your image.
Yeah.
Because
so
if you don't have,
so when you create on NFTrade an NFT, we pin it for you.
Okay.
It's like you pin it for yourself through our service directly from the client, and also when you upload the JSON, it's being uploaded directly to the IPFS service and it's pinned.
Okay.
So when you go to nftrade.com and to your specific NFT, it's already pinned and already on the IPFS service. So that's it. From now on, even if you are a really good developer, you'll probably won't be able to take it off. It's there.
Okay. And how do you earn money? You ask a fee for any NFT that, no?
No.
It's free.
Yes.
Oh, you're very
NFT
generous.
creation is free, and right now, those of you who have traded on NFTrade, hopefully there are some people, and they notice that we currently do not charge any fees. So yeah.
Okay, and finally, you say it's multi-network, no? But I've not seen any way where you can choose in which network you deploy the NFT. Is this an option, or?
It depends on the network that you're connected to. We support 5 chains, so
Okay.
if you're on a chain that we support, it will automatically choose that chain.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Also, when you switch between the chains, it will show the contracts you have deployed to the same chain. So you can see all contracts and manage them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. We got one more there, sorry.
If you create a listing by approving the token, what happens if that user transfers the token? What happens to the listing if they're no longer a holder of it?
It stays listed. If it will get back to your wallet, people will be able to buy it. You can always cancel it manually. It's off-chain listing, so the data is being saved off-chain. You just signed it with your wallet, and the signature has like an expiration time, but basically for now it's 10 years. So for the next 10 years, that listing is available.
Thank you.
The only way to really overcome this problem, and also OpenSea has this issue, is if the NFT deployer of the contract will actually do something that removes approvals to the NFT when it's being transferred. But that's something that only the NFT deployer, I mean, like you can just transfer it to another wallet just directly from MetaMask. So it's not something that you must do even within any platform.
Hello, could you guys talk a little bit about payment splitting and royalties and just strategies for that, please?
Yeah. So for now, we've decided to implement what Mintable was doing. They've done some EIP standard for royalties that basically contains two parts. The first part is something, it's a bit technical, but the first part is something that called supports interface. Every contract on the blockchain can implement a specific interface. It can be an ERC 721, that it's like the standard collectible NFT interface, and it can be more interfaces. And the way for marketplaces like us or like other contracts that communicating to the contract, that they will be able to know what that contract is, what interface it's implemented, is to ask if it supports a specific interface. So there is like that interface that you need to implement as part of the contract, and then there's another function that's called royalty info that we can ask, and NFTrades ask for the royalty info for a specific token ID. So we give you a price and a token ID, a price and a token ID, and you returns us who is the address receiving the royalties and what amount. And from that moment, every listing, once you've set it up, every listing on NFTrade will go through this interface, will go through this royalty info function, and we will actually take on the same transaction, someone is fulfilling the listing, on the same transaction we'll actually do another transfer of the royalty amount to the receiver address. So it's all open on the same transaction. When you list your NFT, you will get like a portion, a royalty will be taken from the seller directly to the...
We also support what's called reflections, where the collectible holders, all of the collection holders are receiving some of the royalties as well. That's also as a standard in the contract. However, if you did not use our standard, we are able to manually add your royalties on top of already minted projects. But that's done manually by us.
But it's also on chain, so...
Yeah.
I have one question and one remark. One is I'm an issuer of ERC 1155 tokens. Our tokens can be burned and turned into NFTs, ERC 1155 NFTs. And there I'm setting the base contract, base URI, onto my own server, which then redirects based on the ID to a JSON on IPFS. And that is a centralization part because that URI is controlled. The server that does the redirection is controlled by me. How can I decentralize that? So I'm not in control of, avoiding that. That's for ERC 1155 contracts. And another thing I noticed, when you mint ERC 1155 contracts with an amount of 0, then on NFTrade, there is an owner shown. For example, during migration, we managed to somehow mint ERC 1155 NFTs, but with an amount of 0, because I was just migrating the entire collection, and some entries were 0. And on NFTrade, I could see them as owners. And when I would go into and try to list them, I couldn't, of course, because there's 0 amount. So I think you guys need to filter out the 0 amount 1155 NFTs.
So I will start from the second remark. So first of all, the way to index NFTs is by listening to contract transfers, to contract events. And if you fire the transfer event, we will know about it. We do manage the balances on 1155, but I mean, like, it's an edge case that shouldn't really happen when you mint something with a balance of 0. So we might, So that's the point. And regarding how can you make it decentralized? I mean, like, once you want to control them, you basically can't really make it decentralized. You have two options. You can just do the reveal at the end, like change the base URI to IPFS after the whole collection has been minted and you already deployed them to IPFS, because once your server knows where to redirect the token URI, it means that you already know it. So you can just...
It's already revealed from
Yeah, I understand, but there is like that point that you actually can know that everything finished, and you can just change the base URI on the 1155 to be pointing directly to the IPFS. I mean, like the centralized server, you can release it at that point, and many collections are doing it. They are starting with a centralized solution, and once the mint is over, they are moving to a decentralized solution. So that's one part you can do, and another solution you can do that for me is still decentralized, is maybe taking this centralized service, putting it on GitHub, making it open source so everyone can still see the code, use it. It's not decentralization, but it's still in the blockchain open source environment, and I think people will still have the trust in you to use, because like the only concern while doing what you're doing is like, how can I know that you will not change it behind the scene? So maybe if you just do it more open source or something like that, people will trust it. Obviously, there are some points that you won't be able to do everything decentralized.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Hey, I guess this is a more general question rather than specific to your guys' platform. But as far as I understand it, IPFS kind of works like torrents. Someone needs to point at the location of the file, right? Versus ARweave is permanent storage as long as the decentralized network keeps running, right? But it seems like most NFT projects are minting on IPFS, even though that's not really decentralized when you think about it. Why is that? Why is everyone minting on IPFS instead of ARweave?
I think it's because people are more familiar with IPFS, and it was
PR,
there before.
better PR.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the reason, really.
Hello. It's kind of related to a previous question, but I was wondering if, I think the answer is no, but is there any way to do a fair minting experience for user in a case where the metadata has already been revealed, so that people that already minted some NFT can check out their NFTs, but also in a way that people that want to snipe a specific ID cannot do that. So that will need to, we will need to have like a true randomness in the ID that's minted. I don't think it's possible. Maybe you have an answer.
No, of course it's possible. There are many solutions. They are all involving a lot of development. One of the solutions is that you can do reveal only one block after. So when you mint something, you don't know what you mint until only one block after. So you have like the timestamp or like the block number when it was revealed, and when someone is trying to pull the token URI or whatever, or the token ID or anything, you won't give any response, like you'll throw an error from the contract if it's on the same block, and then they won't be able to actually simulate and understand what's going to be on the same transaction, because that's what they're doing. When someone wants to snipe the token ID that he see from before, it's all about like simulating a parallel chain on your local computer and try to understand what's going to happen and create some script that will do it at the exact time. There are solutions. True randomness, yeah. I mean, like there are Chainlink are doing
VRF.
yeah, the VRF. Yeah, I mean, it will involve some centralized service, but yeah, an Oracle. Yeah.
Do you manage fractional NFT? And later, will you be able to open like an API to use your platform?
For fractional NFTs, we currently do not support fractional NFTs.
We support like the particle collection, which is Avalanche Banksy, but it's not really fractionalized. It's more just broken up where one NFT is broken into multiple token IDs. But for actual fractionalization, it would need to be a different type of interface.
It really depends how the contract owner implemented it. You know, if it's like, if he implemented it as more NFTs.
It's a collection of NFTs that represent one of 1,000s, but it's a normal NFT. But yeah.
And regarding our API, it's not public, but there are hundreds of platforms that use it already. You just need to do a little reverse engineering, and you will be able to find our API. It's out there. You can find me on Telegram if you have any problems, and I'll help you.
מה שלומכם?
מה נשמע?
בסדר. My question is a bit on the philosophical end regarding the Pokemon problem. You see with the advent of the metaverse in the last year or so, see a lot of necessity for the composability, first of all, of NFTs.
Yeah.
You want to add a shirt, jeans, tennis shoes, and interchange them with your avatar in any given metaverse, and as well as the decentralized storage component of any Unity or Unreal designed item, right? They're huge in storage. How do you see this evolving in the future in a way that is decentralized and not centralized, which is the only way that it can currently be done?
I think it's not philosophical as much as it's really hard. And the idea would be trying to create to think of the future as much as possible in advance. The more you give those abilities in the beginning and you create them when you deploy those contracts, the more you'll be able to do it later on. But if you don't think about it in the beginning, you'll definitely probably have to change and create a new contract and airdrop the new version to people and so on, because that's how contracts work. They're not designed to be changed so often. But of course, if you give that ability from the very beginning, then you're able to do these things. And it takes a lot of thinking and a lot of, yeah.
All right. I think this is the last question, and then any other questions, come find us. We'll be around for the rest of the summit.
Hi, just a general question regarding how do you filter out all the scam or fake token that are actually copying out the project on NFTrade? I understand that you have the verify check mark on NFTrade, but is there a way to actually proactively weed out all these NFT, because people get scammed and broke for all these fake tokens?
Yeah, so this is definitely hard in terms of decentralization. Of course, we want to make it as open as possible. We want the users to be able to control it, but at the same time, we don't want our users to be taken advantage of. So that's why we do introduce the verified collection checkmark. There are some collections we won't verify. For example, if you don't have ownership of the IP, or if it's a collection that's based on a direct other collection, like a Bored Ape syndicate, like a Bored Ape replication, that's not something we would verify. But also with the ethos of decentralization, we do want to keep it as open as possible. So we really make it clear to our users that education is important. They should always be looking at the contract collection address before doing any interactions. And of course, there are problems with that, but you have to find the right balance between decentralization and stepping in and actually having third-party control over what's being allowed to be traded.
On the education note, we're about to launch a very extended course for free of charge to educate yourselves on NFTs. I don't have the exact date, but I think it's coming in the next month or so. So make sure to check it if you're interested. Yeah, I guess thanks everyone.
Thanks so much.
Meet us for pizza at 4 p.m. today. We'll be dropping some really good pizzas. Thank you.